Good evening, I'm Avril Brown from the Anti-Cruelty Society. For 109 years, we have provided an open door for Chicago's animals in need. Our mission of preventing cruelty to animals and advancing humane education is evident in all our work, and that's what we've been discussing on Thursday nights at 5:30 on this live interactive call-in television program brought to you by TV21. During the next 25 minutes, we're going to discuss why and how to socialize your dog, and we invite you to call in with any questions at 312-738-1060. Our phone lines are now open. My guest with me today is Karen Okura. She is the manager of behavior and training at Anti-Cruelty Society, so welcome to the show, Karen.
Hi, thank you.
So, as the manager of behavior and training at Anti-Cruelty, you probably have plenty of experience both personally and professionally working with dogs. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I actually started Anti-Cruelty as a volunteer, so promote volunteerism, and decided that's what I wanted to make as my career, and sort of moved up through the shelter, through kennels and other departments until I got hooked on animal behavior.
Then, so was it, did you start with personally dealing with dogs? Like, did you have a dog when you started volunteering, or?
I actually had 2 dogs. One dog when I started volunteering there. We added another dog after I started working there and added 2 cats as well to the family. That's what tends to happen when you work in an animal shelter. You expose that many great animals, you start taking them home.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So in terms of socialization with your dog, why is it necessary to socialize your dog?
A dog who isn't properly socialized is going to be a dog that you can't take in public. It's going to be a dog that you can't bring to your family's home. It's a dog that you can't, that it really isn't suitable with children or other animals, all kinds of different situations. Socialization is the absolute most important thing you must do with your dog.
That's very definite.
Yes.
So how early should you start the socialization process?
As early as possible. We tell people if you get your dog from an animal shelter, there's usually not a lot of history with it, but preferably the dog started having a lot of handling before it ever left its mom dog at 8 or 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. So socialization begins immediately, but certainly as soon as you get your dog, socialization needs to start. The prime socialization period for a puppy is 8 to 12 weeks. So if they're not exposed to things in that period, there's a great possibility they're going to have issues when they become older. That's a really small window to get that really important work in.
What's an example of some of the issues you might see from a dog that has not been properly socialized before that age?
Could be severe shyness to people, noise phobia, storm phobia, a lot of different type of phobic behaviors, inappropriate behavior with children, mouthiness, hyper behavior. They might have some trouble learning, so it might take them longer to become house trained or obedience trained.
Well, that's a whole lot of issues.
So it's a lot of things that can happen if they're not socialized, yes.
All right then. So I'm certain that you see these things in the shelter from dogs that have not been properly socialized. What are some of the situations that might occur, with dogs that have not been properly socialized? Like where do you see these dogs coming from?
A lot of times you'll see it coming from dogs who are raised in puppy mills because they have no handling. No one bothers to try to socialize those dogs. You'll see it from dogs who are raised, who are born outside and, don't have a home, dogs who are raised in yards, dogs who are born and raised in, barns, things like that. So dogs who have very little exposure to human contact or other animals or other experiences are going to have those types of problems.
Okay. So what are some of the programs that you implement in the shelter to help deal with these dogs that need a little extra socialization?
Well, we do have a school of dog training for people who have privately owned animals, so they can bring their animals in, try to develop a relationship, and try to recover some of the issues that may have been caused through poor socialization. But we also have our behavior and training department, and a lot of good people in that department, Avi's one of them, where we work with dogs who have been identified by having behavioral problems. So the individual dog will get an individual behavior modification program, if you will. And it really depends on what their particular issues are. If it's a dog who's really shy with men, which is a big issue, then we'll try to do something about helping the dog get more comfortable around men. There's plenty of really wonderful men at the shelter who are willing to take a slow approach and be very, very gentle and work with dogs that way. So it depends on the dog, and we do all kinds of different things to help them.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have our first caller. James seems to have a question about getting a second dog. James, you're on the air.
Yes, I got a dog. I adopted him 3 years ago. And I'm thinking about getting another dog.
Yeah.
Should I take my dog with me to see how they get along?
Well, if you're going to get a second dog, you should always introduce your first dog to that one to make sure that they do get along. Just like we don't like everybody we meet, your dog doesn't like everybody that they meet, so it would be very important that they are introduced. And, you know, you need to also think of things like if your dog has, you know, not been spayed or neutered, they should be. They get along better with other animals after they've been altered. And then, you know, you want to consider genders. Neutered male dogs tend to do well with males or females. Intact or unneutered male dogs don't tend to do very well with other males, but they could be okay with a spayed female.
Yeah, he's neutered.
Okay, so you're, you know, everything is pretty much open to you. I would say try to find an animal, a dog, male or female, who's similar in age, similar in personality, and very importantly, similar in activity level. A lot of people think opposites attract, that if I have a dog who's very active, I'll get a dog who's sort of a couch potato, and that'll help calm down my hyper dog. It doesn't work that way. Hyper dog wants a hyper dog, and a couch potato dog wants a couch potato dog.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks for calling, James. So for the call, you mentioned that you do certain programs to help with socialization. What's the timeline on some of these programs? Like, how long does it take really to bring a dog that's shy of men, you know, out of the closet, so to speak, and getting more comfortable with men?
That's something that can take, you know, it really depends on how profoundly damaged the dog is. Some dogs, we can do, you know, a little bit of work with them for a few weeks and they make miraculous recoveries, and other dogs it might take, you know, a little bit longer than that, maybe several weeks or several months before they're better. And sometimes the best we can hope for is that the dog will have a better response, but not necessarily a wonderful, friendly, and social response.
So it really depends on the dog. And
it depends on the dog, but I, you know, basically tell people new behavior takes at least 12 weeks of consistent work before you really see any real change.
Oh, that's a time commitment. Okay, it looks like we have another call from Derek about his dog. Derek, you're on the air. Hello? Did we lose Derek there? Okay, well, it looks like we lost our caller, so hopefully he'll call back. But moving on, for folks at home who have a dog that needs some socialization work, what are some of the things that they can do within their home?
There's a lot of things they can do. I think that sanctioned dog parks, when I say sanctioned, I mean it's a dog park that has been developed through community effort and it has been approved by the Chicago Park District, can be a really nice way to socialize your dog with other dogs. Now there's a really big if here. That's if your dog is friendly with other dogs, and if your dog has been spayed or neutered, and if your dog is current on its inoculations and free of parasites. That could be a really nice thing to do. Simple socialization at home could be, you know, I'm going to have I'm going to ask a bunch of people to come over one at a time and promise them beer and pizza, you know, to help me socialize my dog. There's all kinds of different ways you can sort of implement this into the dog's regular life. Carry treats with you every time you walk out the door with your dog in case he has issues with strangers. If your dog, you know, says, I'm a little bit worried about that guy, get your dog's attention to you, ask him to sit and reward him for it. You know, give him a little piece of chicken or something. Mm-hmm. So dogs start saying, you mean if I see strangers, I get food? I love strangers. Bring them on.
It's a good positive correlation there.
Yes.